Consignments. Dear students, today let us learn about consignments, difference between consignment and sale, usual procedure in case of consignments, entries in the books of consignor, and the entries in the books of consignee. Consignments. It occasionally happens that a merchant, not finding a ready sale for his goods at his own place of business, is desirous of seeking a good market elsewhere. Having ascertained where his goods are likely to be in demand, he employs a person doing business there to act as his agent and sell his goods on commission. As such goods, though shipped or consigned to the agent, are still owned by the person who sent them. They cannot be treated as ordinary sales. It is obvious, therefore, that such consignments will require special treatment in accounts. The person who sends goods to be sold by another for him is called the consignor, and the person to whom the goods are sent for sale is termed the consignee. To the consignor, the shipment would be known as outward consignment, whereas to the consignee, it would be known as an inward consignment. A consignment may be defined as a shipment of goods by a trader to an agent for sale on commission, on the sole risk and account of the farmer. The difference between a consignment and a sale is as follows. In case of sale, the legal title to the goods as also the risk of attaching to them pass immediately to the purchaser. In case of consignment, the legal ownership in the goods and the risk attaching thereto do not pass to the consignee who acts as a mere agent but remain vested in the principal, that is, the consignor. Thus, when goods are sold, the relationship arising between the purchaser and the seller is that of a debtor and a creditor, whereas when the goods are sent by way of consignment, the relationship arising between the consignor and the consignee is that of a principal and an agent. Usual procedure in case of consignments. The consignor dispatches a quantity of goods on his own account and risk to his agent abroad for the purpose of finding fresh markets. Along with these goods, a pro forma invoice is forwarded by the consignor to the consignee, giving a description of the goods consigned and stating their cost or minimum sale price. The consignee is instructed to sell these goods at as high price as possible, and in order to include him to do so, a commission at so much percent is offered to him on the amount of sale proceeds. The consignee is, however, not supposed to sell the goods below the price shown in the pro forma invoice without previous reference to the consignor. In addition to an ordinary selling commission, there is a further remuneration known as del credere commission, which is sometimes paid to him, in return for which the consignee undertakes to bear any loss that might arise from the insolvency of the purchasers of consignment of goods. All necessary expenses in regard to dock duties, unloading, storage, insurance of goods are defrayed by the consignee on account of the consignor and are deducted by him from the sale proceeds while settling the account with the consignor. From time to time, the consignee renders to the consignor a statement known as an account sales, which sets out particulars of goods sold, the gross proceeds realized, the expenses incurred by the consignee, including his commission, and the net proceeds. Usually, the consignee arranges for the consignor to draw a bill on him for a certain sum by way of an advance against the consignment, which on the one hand would serve as a security against the goods lying with the consignee, and on the other hand help the consignor financially as he can realize the bill by discounting it. Entries in the books of consignor. The record of outward consignments would be made in the books of the consignor as follows. 1. A separate consignment account will have to be opened for each shipment in order to ascertain what profit or loss has been made on each such consignment. 2. On the goods being shipped, the particular consignment account is debited with the invoice value of the goods, and an account called goods sent on consignment is credited. The consignment account is also debited with the expenses the consignor has incurred by way of freight, insurance, etc., cash or party being credited. 4. On receipt of a bank draft or an acceptance from the consignee as an advance on consignment, bank account or bills receivable account is debited and the consignee's account is credited with the amount of the draft. When the consignment is realized, the agent forwards an account sales to the consignor showing the gross proceeds realized and the net proceeds after deducting his commission and the expenses he may have incurred thereon. On receipt of such an account sales, the consignee's account is debited with the amount of the gross proceeds and the consignment account is credited. At the same time, the consignment account is debited and the consignee's account is credited with the amount of the expenses and commission deducted by the consignee. 6. The balance of consignment account will now show the profit or loss on consignment and will therefore be transferred to the profit and loss account. 7. The consignee's account will now represent the amount owing by him and will be closed on his sending bills receivable or a draft in settlement of his account. 8. The goods sent out on consignment will be transferred to the credit of the trading account at the time of balancing. 9. If at the time of balancing the consignment is partly realized, the balance of unsold portion will be treated as a stock on hand and be debited to stock on consignment account and credited to consignment account at a cost price. The consignment account will then show the profit or loss on the realized portion and will be closed by profit and loss account. When it is desired not to take credit for any profit until the entire consignment has been realized, the debit balance of the consignment will be shown as an asset in the balance sheet. 10. If at the time of balancing no sale has been made of the consignment, the debit balance of the latter account will be shown as an asset in the balance sheet. If any loss is anticipated, the same should be provided for by means of a reserve. 11. In valuing any unsold balance of consignment stock, the basis of valuation must be the cost price or market price, whichever is lower. In ascertaining the cost price of any unsold portion, the proportionate charges incurred by the consignor must be added to the invoice price of the goods. It is not desirable, however, to unduly inflate the value of such stock by burdening it with the proportionate expenses incurred by the consignee. Where consignments are charged at pro forma invoice. When goods are charged to the consignment account at pro forma invoice price, including a percentage above the cost, the effect of such procedure would be to take credit in the books for profit before it is realized, and as the credit in this respect will be given to the goods sent out on consignment account, which is closed by transfer to the trading account, the gross profit for trading would be unduly inflated. Besides, if the consignment account stands debited with anything beyond the actual cost of the goods and the expenses, it will fail in its object of signifying the true profit or loss made thereon. Evidently, therefore, some adjusting entries will be needed at each balancing time in order to set right the excess debit on the consignment account and the corresponding excess credit on the goods sent out on consignment account. The following adjustments would therefore be made at the end of each financial period before the assignment of profit or loss on any consignment. A. Where the goods relating to any consignment have been sold out in entirety, the adjusting entry would be goods sent on consignment account debtor to the particular consignment account. This will be the amount of difference between the pro forma price at which the consignment had been invoiced and the actual cost of such consignment. This entry will at once set right the existing excess debit on the consignment account as also the excess credit on the goods sent on consignment. B. Where a part of the consignment is sold and there is a balance of stock on hand, the best method that can be followed will be as under 1. In the first instance, a reversing entry will have to be passed as above with the amount of the difference between the pro forma invoice value and the actual cost price of the whole of the particular consignment. This will serve to bring the accounts concerned at their original cost level. The entry for the unsold stock should then be made at the pro forma invoice price, debiting the consignment stock account and crediting the consignment account in question. 3. A further adjusting entry would be needed, debiting the particular consignment account and crediting an account styled consignment stock suspense account with the amount of the excess as represented by the difference between the pro forma price and the actual cost of the closing stock. The debit balance on the consignment stock account would be shown in the balance sheet minus the credit balance on the consignment stock suspense account. Where there has been no sales on account of any particular consignment, the excess included in the first entry at pro forma invoice price will be adjusted by the reversing entry as above explained to be passed at the end of the financial period. The whole object of these adjusting entries will be to see that each consignment account signifies its true profit and that the trading account serves to include the actual trading profit other than that made on the consignments. Where there are several consignments, the profit or loss on each consignment will be transferred to an account styled profit or loss on consignment account and the aggregate result as shown on the second will ultimately transfer to the profit and loss account. Entries in the books of consignee. As the consignee is not liable for the value of the goods consigned to him, but simply holds them in trust for the time being, no entry need be passed by him in the financial books on receipt of the goods until the sale takes place. It will, however, be necessary for him to maintain book styled consignment inwards register and record therein full particulars of each consignment as and when received. The consignee will take the following steps to record transactions relating to inward consignments. 1. On receipt of the goods together with a pro forma invoice from the consignor, a record will be made in a book called Consignment Inward Book by way of a note, but no entry will be made in any financial book. 2. If he has accepted a bill drawn on him by the consignor for a part of the consignment value, he will debit the consignor's account and credit the bills payable. 3. On his incurring any expenses on account of the consignment, he will debit the consignor's account and credit cash or party account. 4. On sales being effected, he will debit cash or party account and credit the consignor's account. 5. For his brokerage or commission, he will debit consignor's account and credit his commission account. 6. The consignor's account will now show the balance of amount owing to him and the same will be closed when the money is remitted. The consignee does not make any entry in his books regarding any consignment stock lying with him, nor does he show it in his balance sheet as it is not his property. In the next lecture, we will solve a practical illustration on consignments.